What's up YouTube, and welcome back to Life with LAM, where we talk about how to make small changes that have big impacts. If this is your first time hanging out with us, thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope you'll be sticking around. Last week we talked about identifying and setting meaningful goals. So if you haven't watched that video yet, be sure to check it out first. I've posted a link to that video in the description. Today we're going to be talking about part 2 of how to get what you want by being a complete and total, wait for it, try hard. If you've already set your goals and you're looking for ways to make it to the finish line, then this is the video for you. And at the end of the video, we'll be going over some quick tips on how to make sure that you get closer and closer to getting exactly what you want. Sound good? Let's go. People insult each other all the time, and I have heard some pretty interesting insults in my day. I won't repeat them because this is a family show, but let's just say that I know that people can be pretty mean. But there is one insult that I have never understood. I first heard it when I started teaching high school, and then I just started hearing it everywhere. At the gym, at the park, I even heard it when my brother was playing video games online. And that insult, my dear friends, is dun, 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 try hard. As in, man, Bobby studied for 8 hours last week. What a try hard. Or, what a try hard. Sarah's taking on extra projects just to suck up to the boss. See, I just can't wrap my head around how being a try hard is an insult. Like, how is giving extra effort considered a negative? Now that being said, I do know why people who try hard get made fun of. But before we open that Pandora's box, I want to take a trip down memory lane to when I first learned to ride a bike. Story time. I was around 5 years old and my dad had bought me a bicycle for Christmas. Now, with it being winter in Canada and all, I had to stare at that beautiful machine for months before I got to ride it. Needless to say, when the snow had all melted and my dad decided that the roads were dry enough for me to start learning, I was ready to go. Like, already out the door, jumping up and down, too much energy to handle, ready to go. Oh man, first time without training wheels, locked and loaded. I put on my helmet, my knee pads, my elbow pads, all Ninja Turtle style if you must know. Donatello was my favorite. And bang, I'm off to the races. And then bang, I'm on the ground. Needless to say, I was not the most graceful child. And I look down and there's a giant scratch along my hip. It hurt so bad, but I really wanted to ride my bike. I had waited so long. I looked back at my dad and he was already jogging over to check if I was okay. So I quickly got up and started getting back on my bike. I balanced for maybe 2 seconds before I was back on the ground again. By the time I got up, my dad was already by my side. Now, I've never been really good at hiding pain, which is just another way of saying that I've always been a bit of a crier. So it wasn't long before my dad realized that I was bleeding a little bit and told me that we had to go back inside and get cleaned up. I was devastated. I argued and fought and I insisted that it was fine and I just wanted to keep riding. The whole time I'm crying and there's snot all over my face. But my dad consoled me. He promised me that we would come back out and try again as soon as I was all patched up. And he told me that he was proud that I wanted to try again even though I had fallen down and gotten a boo-boo. I've always loved this story because it's a sweet tale about a father teaching his son one of the most basic things that a young child should know. And surprise, it has nothing to do with riding a bike. That day and so many other days, my dad showed me that it was good to try. That trying, even when something is hard or it hurts, is something to be proud of. And I will forever be grateful to my father for that. But can you imagine if my dad had laughed at me when I fell and then laughed even harder when I tried to get back on the bike, calling me a try-hard, making fun of my failure? Now, before you say, hey, that's not the same, I would never call a child learning to ride a bike a try-hard. What's not the same? Somebody wants to accomplish something that maybe you already know how to do or something that you don't care about. They go the extra mile, put in more effort than you think is necessary. Be honest, how is that different? Why is it ridiculous to call a child a try-hard when we do it to our peers all the time? I told you earlier that I know why people who try hard get insulted, and I do, but you may not like the reason. See, we live in a society where we're constantly flooded with images of people living their best lives. Social media has given us the idea that people are constantly succeeding, which in a way is great because we should all be striving to live our best life. But it can also make us feel like these people never fail, as if every day for them is a filtered photo in front of a waterfall, as if it never rains during their perfectly documented vacation. It starts pumping the idea that the only way you can be successful is if you never fail. More than ever, people fear failure. But more than that, because everything is so visible through social media, we fear other people seeing us fail. We would rather be considered lazy than be called a failure. I mean, think about the last time you asked somebody about a job that they didn't get or the exam that they bombed. I'm willing to bet that we have all said or heard someone else say something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, whatever, I didn't even study for that exam." Or, "No big deal, I didn't really want that job anyway." We're afraid of what others will think if they know that we tried our very best, gave it everything that we had, and we still didn't succeed. We make excuses to other people so that they don't know how hurt and disappointed we are. But the worst part is that we lie to ourselves too. We trick ourselves into thinking that we didn't get what we want because we were too lazy or we didn't care. Anything to avoid the simple truth that on that day, for whatever reason, our best just wasn't good enough. And before I move on, I just want to take a second to clarify something really important. Regardless of how successful or unsuccessful you are, regardless of whether or not your best was good enough on any given day, you, as a human being, are enough. And if no one's ever told you that, it doesn't make it any less true. I'm telling you now, whatever successes or failures that you go through, you are enough. So what does this fear have to do with making fun of other people? When people who are used to making excuses for themselves see other people giving 100%, it looks ridiculous. It's uncomfortable. And not because they don't understand why these people are trying so hard. Now here's the part that you might not like. We make fun of people who are willing to give 100% all the time because we're jealous. And listen, you might not want to agree with me right now, but give it some time. Let me convince you. We're jealous of people who don't care what other people think of their efforts because we know how much better our lives would be if we could do the same. A kid gives it his all every gym class even though he never makes the school team. And the track star makes fun of him because it's easier than admitting that he wishes he could do the same in the classroom. An employee applies for every promotion that comes up and gets denied every single time. And her coworker makes fun of her because it's easier than admitting that he was too afraid to even apply in the first place. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that only people who give full effort are successful. Sometimes people just win the lottery and that's enough for them. I'm also not saying that being a tryhard means that you'll always be successful, because you won't. But let's not pretend for a second that putting in the time and the effort doesn't seriously improve your chances. Every big and scary goal is gonna come with risks. It's going to take effort. And look, if you don't wanna try hard, if you're still worried about what other people think, if you don't wanna go for broke and do everything you can to get what you want, that's fine, and that's on you. But don't be mad or complain or get jealous when someone who worked way harder than you did gets what you say you wanted. So okay, I get it. Try hard is a terrible insult, and I can respect that other people have reasons for working as hard as they do. But how do I get what I want? Well, I'm glad you asked. Tip number 1, be ready to fail. Don't run from it, run towards it. Every full effort failure brings you another step closer to success. See, failure and success are neighbors. You can't get close to one without getting close to the other. So don't worry about failure when you're setting off to achieve your goals. And don't make excuses for yourself when you fail. Embrace every hardship and learn from it. Use every failure as motivation to improve for your next attempt. Tip number 2, don't give up. It's one thing to embrace failure, but it's a totally separate thing to accept it. Failure is a stepping stone, not a destination. Telling yourself that you tried your best and there's nothing else you can do will not get you to your goal. Also, it's just not true. There are always other things you can try, other avenues that you haven't even considered yet. Turn over every rock, and if you feel like you flipped them all, then flip them again. Maybe you missed something the first time around. As long as you still want to reach your goal, there will always be something else that you can try. Tip number 3, ask for help. This one always seems to be the toughest for people. Achieving your goal does not mean that you have to do it alone. If you've got a goal that others have accomplished before, then ask for advice. You can learn from their mistakes, or maybe even find a completely different, better way to achieve the same goal. And if no one's ever done it before, you can still look for support and guidance from other related streams. At the end of the day, you have your goal. How you get there and who you get there with is up to you. But you know who's probably the best type of person to bring along? A tryhard. So there you have it, how to achieve your goals by being a tryhard. In the comments below, let me know what you think of this video. Tell me how hard you've had to work for a goal before you achieved it. Or better yet, tell me about a goal that you're still working towards now. Success stories are nice, but I'm definitely more interested in a work in progress. And if you've got any tips of your own about getting what you want, please feel free to share them. As always, I really hope you gained something from this video. And if you want to support this channel, then please hit those like and subscribe buttons. And don't forget to turn on that notification bell because we'll be dropping a new episode of Life with Lamb every Wednesday. Thank you so much for stopping by. Be good, and let's make today an awesome day. Take care.